water, plows, and a compulsive will to build something. The town long ago had made its growth and found its natural level. Now it held steady, gaining no ground but losing none. Oil companies had come and punched their holes and found them dry. They had gone again, leaving dreams of quick riches to drift away on the arid wind like the cotton-white clouds that promised rain and failed to deliver. Life still depended on two fundamentals: crops planted by the hand of man and grass planted by the hand of God. "Give us rain," they said at Rio Seco, "and it makes no difference who's in the White House." If one thing set the town apart, it was probably the trees, pale green mesquites and massive, gnarled live oaks, rustling cottonwoods and shady pecans, watered by 100 windmills, whose towers stood tall above a timid skyline. Modern municipal mains provided purer water for drinking and cooking, but most of the older generation clung to wells for yards and gardens and trees. For a man who has often turned his face to the hot breath of drought, the sight of a windmill tower, its big steel fan clanking patiently and pumping up water clear and cool, somehow reaches deep and touches something in his soul. The town had three cultures: Anglo, German, and Mexican. The first two had largely merged through the years, beef and beans and apple strudel. The third remained unassimilated, except perhaps in Rio Seco's unhurried pace of living. Most of the Anglos were addicted to Mexican food, and most of the Mexicans loved football. But these were superficial things. Many of the older rock homes had a no-nonsense, squared-off solidity the Germans had brought from their original settlements in the Pedernales River section of the hill country. Across the railroad tracks, beyond roads dusty from passage of livestock trucks on their way to the shipping pens, lay the Mexican part of town, ageless adobes and small frame shacks, and a fair number of modern GI houses built since the war. The old and the new stood side by side in sharp contrast. A wrinkled, ancient Mexican working up adobe bricks out of straw and mud in a barefoot method known to the fathers of his grandfathers, while next door a three-man crew with electric saws cut raw lumber for a new frame house. Two small, brown-faced boys sat on a forbearing Mexican burro, their black eyes alive with curiosity as they watched an older brother turning the motor of a hot rod. For the ranchman, business centered around Emmett Rodale's old stone bank and Jim Sweet's feed store wool warehouse, a long, cool, cavernous building of concrete tile. There, in round, well-packed jute bags wedged between steel poles and stacked nearly to the high ceiling, lay stored the gray-white fleeces that for 3 generations had been a cornerstone of Rio Seco's economy. For the farmer, business focused on the same bank, the cotton gin, and a small grain elevator with twin steel tubes that stood taller than anything else in town except the sun-catching silver water tower emblazoned with crudely painted red letters, SRS 51. In the second floor of the rock-fronted courthouse was a room which in recent years had emerged as another important economic fact of life, the county office of the federal PMA. Next to rain, perhaps, it had become the most important fact. Here the man of the land came to declare his crop acreage, his past year's plantings. Here he was told how much land he would be allowed to seed in cotton, in grain sorghums, in whatever other crops might be under federal control. Here he came for price support and to receive checks to help him pay for terraces and water spreading, for water wells and surface tanks, for battling back the prickly pear and thorny mesquite. Here he sold his freedom bit by bit and was paid for it on the installment plan. March Nicholson, the county PMA officer, stood at the open window looking down on the freshly mowed courthouse lawn, the buried sprinkler system showering green Bermuda grass dotted by patches of dying winter rye. It always irritated him the way people parked haphazardly around the courthouse.